The stadium was already shaking before the final point. Alex Eala stood on the baseline, breathing heavily, her eyes fixed on the opposite side of the court. She had battled through 2 intense sets, survived long rallies, saved multiple break points, and refused to let the pressure of the semifinal take control. Now everything came down to one point. Her opponent served wide. Alex reacted instantly, sprinting toward the ball and returning it deep into the corner. The rally continued, one shot, then another. The crowd rose from their seats as both players exchanged powerful forehands. Alex moved forward. Her opponent tried to pass her down the line, but Alex reached the ball just in time. With perfect control, she struck a clean cross-court winner. The ball landed inches inside the line. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the umpire's voice echoed across the stadium. Game, set, match, Alex Eala. The crowd erupted. Alex dropped her racket and covered her face with both hands. Tears filled her eyes as she looked toward her team. She had just won the biggest match of her career and secured a place in the final. The cameras captured everything: the celebration, the roaring crowd, the emotional embrace with her coach, and the young star standing alone in the center of the court as thousands of fans chanted her name. It looked like the perfect victory. A rising talent had reached the final. The media called it destiny. Commentators described her performance as proof that she belonged among the sport's elite. Sponsors celebrated the moment before Alex had even left the court. But while the world was celebrating her semifinal victory, another story was beginning behind the scenes. A story that would soon shake professional tennis. For months, Alex Eala's rise had been described as extraordinary. She entered the professional circuit with confidence, discipline, and a style of play that immediately attracted attention. Her speed impressed analysts. Her composure surprised veterans. Her powerful ground strokes made her one of the most exciting young players to watch. But the attention came quickly. Before she had reached a major final, Alex was already appearing in global campaigns. Brands were designing promotions around her image. Broadcasters referred to her as the future face of women's tennis. Every victory was treated as evidence of greatness, while every defeat was explained as part of her development. That level of support would have been celebrated by some players. But others began asking questions. Why was Alex receiving so much attention so early? Why did some of her matches receive prime scheduling? Why did tournament opportunities appear to arrive faster for her than for players who had spent years fighting through lower-level events? These questions remain mostly private. Professional tennis is not only about what happens on the court. Rankings, wild cards, scheduling, media coverage, sponsorships, practice facilities, and tournament invitations can all shape an athlete's career. A player can be talented and still need opportunity. But when opportunity appears unevenly distributed, people begin to wonder whether the competition is truly equal. In this fictional scenario, those questions become impossible to ignore after Alex wins her semifinal. The victory instantly becomes one of the biggest stories in tennis. Her supporters call it a breakthrough. Critics call it another example of a system determined to build her into a superstar. Then Serena Williams is asked about it. The interview is unexpected. Serena is questioned about the current direction of women's tennis, the rapid rise of young stars, and the way the sport promotes its next generation. At first, she remains measured. Then the journalist asks whether every player is receiving the same opportunities. Serena pauses. Her expression changes. The sport needs to be honest about how opportunity works, she says. Talent deserves a chance, absolutely, but the chance has to be fair. Players should not feel that some careers are being accelerated while everyone else is expected to wait in line. The statement spreads across social media within minutes. Then Serena makes the comment that changes the entire conversation. If a governing body chooses a player and builds the system around that player, that is not equal competition. That is image making. And when image becomes more important than performance, the sport has a serious problem. Serena does not accuse Alex of cheating. She does not claim that Alex fixed matches or broke rules. Her criticism is aimed at the institutions surrounding the game. But the timing is explosive. Alex has just won the semi-final. She is preparing for the biggest final of her career. Instead of discussing her tactics, her resilience, and her performance, the entire tennis world begins debating whether her rise was supported by forces beyond the court. Fans revisit every tournament draw. They analyze match times, wild cards, sponsor campaigns, and media coverage. Online discussions turn into investigations, with supporters and critics interpreting the same events in completely different ways. Some believe Alex earned every opportunity through hard work and ability. Others argue that the sport selected her as its next marketable star before she had enough results to justify the attention. The debate becomes even louder when former players and coaches begin speaking anonymously. One fictional coach claims that some young prospects received better access to training facilities and medical support. A former qualifier says players were discouraged from questioning tournament decisions. Another source alleges that broadcasters were told to describe certain athletes as future champions while presenting similar performances from other players as disappointing. None of these claims are independently verified. But the allegations create a powerful narrative that professional tennis may operate with two different standards. One system for the players already chosen for promotion. Another for everyone else. The governing body issues a statement denying favoritism. It says tournament draws, scheduling, rankings, and media access follow established procedures. Officials insist that every player has the opportunity to compete. But the statement satisfies almost nobody. Critics say the response is too vague. Fans demand transparency. Players call for independent reviews of ranking systems, wildcard decisions, and tournament scheduling. And in the middle of the storm stands Alex Eala. She has just won the most important match of her career. Yet instead of being allowed to celebrate, she is suddenly being treated as the face of a controversy she did not create. Her team waits before responding. When the statement finally comes, it is calm. "I did not design the system," Alex says. "I did not choose the media coverage, the sponsorships, or the decisions made by tournament officials. I worked for every match I played, and I will continue to work. If the sport needs to improve, then those responsible for running it should answer those questions." The statement changes the tone of the debate. Alex is no longer being portrayed only as the beneficiary of a powerful system. She is also being seen as a young athlete trapped inside a story written by other people. That is what makes the situation so complicated. She may have benefited from greater visibility than other players received, but she may also have been turned into a symbol before she had the chance to define herself. Her semi-final victory was real, her preparation was real, her pressure was real, her performance on the court belonged to her. But the mythology surrounding her may have been manufactured by people who saw commercial potential before they saw a complete champion. Within days, sponsors begin reviewing their partnerships. Some remain committed. Others issue cautious statements about conducting evaluations. The same companies that once celebrated Alex as the future now worry that the controversy could damage their image. The tennis world divides into factions. Established players support Serena's demand for accountability. Younger athletes defend Alex or stay silent. Tournament officials insist that the system is fair. Journalists begin investigating how sports narratives are created and who benefits from them. The semifinal victory becomes more than a match. It becomes the moment when every hidden question reaches the surface. Alex is still preparing for the final. She still has to practice, recover, and face another opponent, but now every shot will be analyzed through the controversy. If she wins, critics may call it proof that the system elevated her. If she loses, others may say the pressure finally exposed her weaknesses. Either way, she cannot simply be an athlete anymore. She has become a symbol. And that may be the greatest injustice of all. A young player should be judged by her effort, her results, and the way she competes. She should not be forced to carry the responsibility for every decision made by sponsors, officials, broadcasters, or governing bodies. At the same time, the sport cannot avoid difficult questions simply because a young athlete is involved. If tennis wants to maintain public trust, it must explain how opportunities are distributed. It must make ranking decisions clearer. It must provide greater transparency around wild cards, scheduling, media access, and sponsorship influence. The answer cannot be blind loyalty to an institution. It also cannot be the destruction of one player's reputation. The real question is not whether Alex Eala deserves to win. The question is whether every player deserves a fair chance to reach the same stage. On the night Alex won her semi-final, she believed she had taken one step closer to history. Instead, she became the center of a reckoning. The stadium celebrated her victory, Serena's words ignited the controversy. The governing body defended itself, players demanded answers, fans began questioning the machinery behind the spectacle. And Alex? She walked into the final carrying more than a racket. She carried the expectations of sponsors, the doubts of critics, the support of millions of fans, and the weight of a system she never created. Her semi-final victory proved that she could handle pressure on the court. The final would reveal whether she could survive the storm surrounding it. Because in this fictional tennis drama, the match may have ended with Alex Eala's victory. But the real battle had only just begun. Like, dislike.